fastest pass. Let's kick things off with pure speed. Everyone knows a sharp pass can make or break a play, sometimes the difference between a try and getting stopped dead. Joe Simpson, the Wasps scrum half nicknamed the Speedster, wasn't just quick on his feet, his hands were just as rapid. In 2011, at a sponsor event, he unleashed a pass clocked at 48 miles per hour. Imagine trying to catch a ball flying faster than a blink. Teammates had to stay laser focused or the ball would whiz straight past. What makes the record jaw-dropping isn't just the pace, it's the accuracy. A fast pass without precision is useless, but Simpson married lightning speed with pinpoint control. That's what makes this record so special. Rugby isn't only about brute force, it's about timing, decision-making, and sheer skill. One perfect pass can rip through a defensive line in ways power never could. Fastest try. Now, most tries build up through phases, passes, maybe a line break, but Tyson Lewis didn't waste a second. Playing for Doncaster Knights against Old Albanians, he scored a try in just 7.24 seconds, quicker than fans can even sit down with snacks. The ball's in play, and Lewis exploded down the wing. Defenders didn't even blink before he crossed. In that blinding burst, the crowd probably didn't know what hit them. One moment you're scrolling on your phone, the next you've missed the fastest try ever. But here's the twist. Many fans assume that's the fastest try in rugby union, but they're thinking of 15s only. In rugby sevens, Fiji's Alasio Naduva pulled off a shocker at the 2019 Sydney Sevens, sprinting from kickoff and touching down in 6.54 seconds. He hit a blistering top speed of 36 kilometers an hour, leaving defenders flat-footed and the crowd stunned. That try earned him the mark of excellence and try of the tournament buzz. Whether it's elite club 15s or electrifying 7s, one perfectly timed sprint shows just how unpredictable and electric rugby can be. Longest drop kick. The longest recorded drop kick in rugby union came from Jerry Brand in 1932. Playing for South Africa against England at Twickenham, he launched the ball an astonishing 77.7 metres. Most modern pros, with advanced training and lightweight balls, celebrate a 50-metre strike. Brand went nearly 28 metres further, and he did it with a much heavier, harder leather ball, not the synthetic versions players use today. This wasn't luck. Brand was known as a gifted kicker with flawless technique, and even for him, this was extraordinary. The moment has taken on a mythical quality, like a feat from another era. Records in athletics usually fall as technology improves. In rugby, you'd expect the same, yet almost a century later, Brand's drop goal still stands untouched. It's proof that raw talent and perfect execution can create something timeless. A record fans still marvel at, and one that may never be broken. Most international appearances as captain. Richie McCaw of New Zealand is widely regarded as one of the greatest captains in rugby history, honestly, in all sports. From 2004 to 2015, he led the All Blacks in a staggering 110 international matches. Most players dream of 30 or 40 caps. McCaw not only played 148 tests, but captained more than 100 of them. That record speaks to trust, consistency, and unshakable leadership. Under his watch, New Zealand won 2 Rugby World Cups, 2011 and 2015, making him the first player to captain 2 victories. But his legacy wasn't just about silverware. McCaw created a culture of discipline and resilience. He wasn't the loudest, but he led by example. Tough in the breakdown, fearless in the tackle, and always raising teammates' standards. Opponents respected his rugby brain as much as his grit. For fans, McCaw redefined what it means to wear the captain's armband. Largest scrum. In September 2023, rugby fans in Utah pulled off something extraordinary. After the USA Eagles faced French giants Stade Toulousain at America First Field, nearly 2,938 people packed together to form the largest rugby scrum in history. The record attempt wasn't just about size, it was about heart. The event was organised in honour of Hadley, a 6-year-old cancer survivor whose fight inspired thousands to come together. When everyone crouched, bound and pushed, it wasn't 8 against 8, it was an entire community moving as one. Guinness World Records officials confirmed that this massive effort smashed the previous record set in Japan back in 2018. The sight of nearly 3,000 people locked shoulder to shoulder was unforgettable. It wasn't just a quirky stunt, it showed what rugby does best, bringing people together for something bigger than the game itself. Longest penalty kick. If you think today's kickers have range, wait until you hear this. The longest successful penalty kick in international rugby belongs to Paul Thorburn of Wales. Back in the 1986 Five Nations facing Scotland at Cardiff Arms Park, Thorburn lined up from an outrageous 64.2 metres. Most players would barely even try from that distance, but Thorburn sent it sailing straight through the posts. To put that into perspective, modern kickers with carbon light boots and finely tuned training usually max out around 55 to 58 metres. Thorburn did it in the mid-80s with a heavy leather ball and old-school boots in the middle of a pressure test match. The kick wasn't just a freak strike, it was measured and confirmed, and it still stands nearly 40 years later. Fans still talk about it as one of rugby's most jaw-dropping moments of pure power and technique. Fastest red card. If you think it takes time for a rugby match to heat up, Dan Evans proved otherwise. In a 2019 Champions Cup clash between the Ospreys and Racing 92, the fullback received a red card after just 37 seconds, widely regarded as the fastest dismissal in professional rugby. The moment came when Evans chased a high ball but collided recklessly with Racing's Teddy Thomas in mid-air. The referee wasted no time, reaching for red almost as soon as the game began. Ospreys were down to 14 men before most fans had even settled into their seats. Playing virtually the entire match a man short, Ospreys battled hard, but the early blow was impossible to overcome. Evans' 37-second exit has since become rugby folklore, a reminder that discipline is everything. Blink and you might miss a try, or worse, see your team's day ruined before it even starts. Most successful team. When it comes to dominance in rugby union, no team matches the New Zealand All Blacks. Their most successful stretch came between 2011 and 2015, a golden era that redefined consistency at the top. Across those 4 years, the All Blacks won back-to-back Rugby World Cups, 2011 on home soil and 2015 in England, becoming the first team in history to defend the title. Under captain Richie McCaw and coach Steve Hansen, they turned winning into a habit, losing only 3 tests in that entire span. Their game was a ruthless blend of power, skill, and precision. From the boot of Dan Carter to the finishing brilliance of Julian Savea to McCaw's leadership, everything clicked. Opponents often walked onto the field knowing they were already in trouble. The 2011 to 2015 side wasn't just successful, it set the benchmark for rugby greatness, a dynasty fans still measure teams against today. Tallest player. Rugby has seen its fair share of giants, but none stood taller than Richard Metcalfe. At an incredible 7 feet, or around 213 centimetres, the Scottish lock remains the tallest player ever to take the field in international rugby. Metcalfe earned 13 caps for Scotland between 2000 and 2001, and his presence in the line-out was impossible to ignore. He was quite literally head and shoulders above opponents, giving his teams a towering advantage at restarts and set pieces. Despite his size, Metcalfe wasn't just a novelty act. He turned out for top English clubs like Northampton Saints and Newcastle Falcons, proving he could handle the physical demands of professional rugby. In a sport already full of big men, Metcalfe's height made him unforgettable. Even today, fans talk about the giant Scot, who remains rugby union's tallest ever international player. Most famous try. Some records aren't measured in metres or points, they live forever in memory. The most famous try ever scored belongs to Gareth Edwards, playing for the Barbarians against New Zealand in Cardiff, 1973. It began with Phil Bennett gathering a loose kick just outside his own 22. Instead of booting it clear, he danced past defenders with a series of outrageous sidesteps. The ball then flew through the hands of J.P.R. Williams, John Pullen, John Dawes, Tommy David, and Derek Quinnell. Finally, Edwards came charging onto the last pass and dived over in the corner. It was rugby at its purest, fearless running, instinctive support, and breathtaking skill against the mighty All Blacks. Commentators simply called it that try, and fans still do today. Half a century later, Edwards' try is still replayed as the greatest ever, a timeless reminder of rugby's magic. Fastest man. When it comes to pure speed, no one in rugby has ever matched Carlin Isles. Dubbed the fastest man in rugby, the American 7-star was a track sprinter before turning to rugby, and it shows every time he takes the field. At his peak, Isles clocked a staggering 100 metres in 10.13 seconds, a time that would qualify him for Olympic trials. In rugby boots with ball in hand, he's been measured at speeds of over 37 kilometres per hour. To put that in context, most elite rugby wingers top out around 32. Once Isles hits top gear, there's simply no catching him. What makes him unforgettable isn't just the numbers, it's the highlights. Give him half a gap at a sevens tournament, and defenders look like they're running in slow motion. Isles became a viral sensation with tries, where he burned entire teams from his own half. For a sport built on power and collisions, Isles reminded the world that raw pace is equally devastating. In the record books and in the eyes of fans, he's earned his place as rugby union's fastest ever. The greatest pass ever thrown. Some records aren't measured by speed or distance, but by sheer brilliance. In the 2018 Six Nations, Scotland fly half Finn Russell threw what many call the greatest pass rugby has ever seen. Facing England at Murrayfield, deep in his own 22, Russell looked cornered. Instead of kicking to safety, he spotted a chance no one else could see. With defenders rushing up, he flung a long, flat, cut-out pass straight across his backline, hitting Hugh Jones in stride. Jones charged into space, and suddenly Scotland were on their way to one of their most famous Calcutta Cup victories. It wasn't just the accuracy or the ambition, it was the audacity to even try it under test match pressure. That single moment summed up Russell's genius: fearless, imaginative, and capable of changing a game with one flick of the wrist. Most siblings in an international match. In April 2014, history was made when 5 brothers from Slovenia all lined up together in the same international rugby match. Archie, George, Frank, Max, and Jack Skofic represented their country against Bulgaria in the European Nations Cup, and it became a day that will never be forgotten. 3 of the brothers started and played the full 80 minutes. Around the 25th minute, Max came on and immediately lit up the game, scoring 3 tries. Later in the match, Jack joined from the bench to complete the picture. By the final whistle, all 5 brothers were on the field together, celebrating a convincing 43-17 victory. For the Skolfic family, it was a moment of immense pride. For rugby, it was a record-breaking reminder that the game is about unity, passion, and sometimes the extraordinary bond of family. Largest attendance at a rugby match. Rugby has produced countless unforgettable moments, but none drew a bigger audience than the clash in Sydney in July 2000. At Stadium Australia, still buzzing from Olympic fever, a record crowd of 109,874 fans packed in to watch New Zealand face Australia. Nearly 110,000 people shoulder to shoulder, there for one purpose: to see 2 rugby giants collide. The match itself has gone down as one of the greatest games ever played. The All Blacks and Wallabies traded blows from start to finish in a relentless, high-scoring thriller. The atmosphere was like nothing else. The noise was so deafening that players later admitted they could barely communicate. They relied on instinct, eye contact, and pure trust in each other. In the end, New Zealand edged Australia 39-35, but the real story was the occasion. Tens of thousands united by the sport they loved, sharing a once-in-a-lifetime memory. For everyone in that stadium, it was not just about who won, it was about being able to say, "I was there the night rugby made history." Most test points. Now, when it comes to individual records, few are as jaw-dropping as the one held by Dan Carter. The legendary New Zealand fly half is widely regarded as one of the greatest players ever, and his career stats prove why. Between 2003 and 2015, Carter scored 1,598 points in international rugby, the most in Test history. To put that into perspective, most players dream of reaching a couple hundred over their careers, but Carter basically rewrote the record books. He announced himself to the world in style, scoring 20 points, including a try, on debut against Wales at age 21. From then on, he became a nightmare for opponents. Every time Carter laced up his boots for the All Blacks, the opposition knew they were in for trouble. He was incredibly accurate, whether slotting penalties from distance, curling conversions from the sideline, or nailing drop goals under pressure. And he did not just score points, he orchestrated games and directed the flow of play with a calmness and vision few could match. Yes, he was feared, but he was also deeply respected. Teammates relied on his consistency, while fans adored his ability to deliver in big moments, especially in World Cups. His record is not just about numbers, it is about the standard he set for fly halves around the world. Honestly, it is hard to imagine anyone coming close. Carter was the heartbeat of the All Blacks during one of their most dominant eras. If you enjoyed this, there are plenty more rugby videos in the works. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.